There's a type of person you've probably met before. Every conversation somehow circles back to money. How much something costs. How much they make. What they own. What they're planning to buy. How expensive their last vacation was. And here's what most people assume: they think this person is greedy. Shallow. Materialistic. But psychology tells a completely different story. Because when someone can't stop talking about money, it almost never has anything to do with money at all. Emotional introduction. Think about the people in your life who do this. Maybe it's a friend who drops their salary into every conversation. A family member who always knows the price of everything you own. A colleague who constantly mentions what they spent on their car, their house, their watch. On the surface, it's exhausting. Sometimes even annoying. But if you look deeper, and I mean really deeper, what you find isn't arrogance. What you find is a wound. A very old, very quiet wound that most of them have never once examined. And today, we're going to examine it together. Psychological explanation. Here's something psychology has understood for a long time but almost nobody talks about openly. Money, for most people, is never really about money. It's about what money represents. Safety. Control. Respect. Love. Worth. When a person grows up in an environment where money was scarce, or unpredictable, or used as a weapon, the mind creates a very specific kind of scar. And that scar doesn't disappear when the bank account grows. It doesn't disappear when the job gets better or the house gets bigger. It follows them. Quietly. Constantly. And one of the ways it shows up is in how much they talk about it. Sign number 1, they grew up feeling unsafe. The first hidden wound behind this behavior is a childhood filled with financial uncertainty. And I'm not just talking about poverty. I'm talking about unpredictability. Maybe money was fine one month and completely gone the next. Maybe they watched their parents argue about bills behind closed doors. Maybe they learned, very early, that love in their home had a price tag, that when money was tight, tension was high, and warmth disappeared. When a child grows up in that environment, their nervous system learns one thing. Money equals safety. And when you believe that deep in your bones, not intellectually, but emotionally, you never stop thinking about it. You never stop tracking it. You never stop talking about it. Because in their mind, talking about money is the same as reassuring themselves that they're okay. That they made it. That they're safe now. Sign number 2, they never felt good enough. This is where things become really interesting. Most people who constantly talk about money aren't trying to impress you. They're trying to convince themselves. Deep down, there's a voice. An old, familiar voice that whispers, "You're not enough. You don't belong here. People don't respect you." And money becomes the answer to that voice. If I can show people what I earn, what I own, what I've built, maybe that voice will finally go quiet. Psychology calls this extrinsic validation seeking. But in simple human terms, it means this person never received the message, as a child, as a teenager, maybe even as an adult, that they were valuable just as they were. Not for what they produced. Not for what they achieved. Just for existing. So they built an identity out of numbers. Because numbers feel objective. Numbers feel like proof. And proof feels safer than simply being loved. Sign number 3, money was used as control in their past. Some people grew up in households where money wasn't just a resource. It was power. Maybe a parent used financial generosity as a way to control. Give when they wanted obedience. Withdraw when they wanted punishment. Maybe love was conditional on performance, good grades meant rewards, failure meant financial rejection. Or maybe they were in a relationship where one partner controlled all the money. Where asking for basic needs felt humiliating. where financial dependence slowly became emotional imprisonment. What many people fail to understand is that when money has been weaponized against you, your mind never fully relaxes around it again. You obsess over it. You track it. You talk about it constantly because somewhere in your subconscious, staying aware of money feels like staying protected. It feels like making sure no one can ever use it against you again. Sign number 4, they're measuring their worth against others. Here's a painful truth. When someone constantly compares what they earn, what they own, what they spend, they're not really comparing finances. They're comparing worth. This is one of the most misunderstood behaviors in human psychology. What looks like arrogance from the outside is almost always deep insecurity on the inside. Think about it. A truly secure person doesn't need to announce their salary. They don't need you to know what their car cost. They're not keeping score. But someone who grew up feeling overlooked, dismissed, or invisible. They learn that the world pays attention to numbers. They learn that money creates respect where personality couldn't. So they lead with it. Every time. In every conversation. Not to dominate you, but to finally feel seen. Sign number 5, they're running from a fear they've never named. The deepest wound of all is one most people who carry it have never consciously identified. It's the fear of becoming nothing. Somewhere along the way, this person learned, through experience, through loss, through watching others struggle, that without financial security, a person becomes invisible. Powerless. Forgotten. And that fear doesn't live in the rational mind. It lives in the body. In the chest. In the stomach. It wakes them up at 3 a.m. even when the savings account is full. It makes them anxious in conversations that have nothing to do with money. It makes them talk, compulsively, constantly, about finances, because silence feels dangerous. Because stopping feels like losing control. They're not talking about money. They're talking about survival. Deep reflection section. Now I want you to pause for a second. Because maybe you came into this video thinking about someone else. A person who does this. Someone who exhausts you with their money talk. But maybe, just maybe, some part of this landed a little closer to home. Maybe you recognize a quieter version of this in yourself. And if you do, I want you to hear this clearly. There is no shame in that. The wounds that created these patterns weren't your fault. They were responses. Intelligent, necessary responses to environments that made you feel unsafe, unseen, or not enough. The question isn't why did I become this way? The question is, now that I can see it, what do I want to do with it? Because awareness is where everything begins to shift. Powerful conclusion. People who constantly talk about money are not shallow. They are carrying something heavy. A childhood that felt uncertain. A self-worth that was never freely given. A fear so deeply rooted that they learned to measure their safety in dollars and numbers and the reactions of other people. And the most heartbreaking part? Most of them have no idea this is happening. They genuinely believe they're just talking about money. They don't see the scared child underneath. The one who learned that love was conditional. The one who decided, somewhere along the way, that if they couldn't make people love them, at least they could make people notice them. Real healing for these patterns doesn't come from making more money. It comes from finally understanding what you were really looking for all along. Not wealth. Safety. Worth. Belonging. And those things, unlike money, cannot be earned. They have to be felt. From the inside out. Call to action. If this video felt uncomfortably accurate, for you or for someone you know, that feeling is worth paying attention to. Most of us walk through life carrying patterns we've never stopped to examine. And sometimes, all it takes is one moment of honest reflection to begin changing everything. Drop a comment below. Did this resonate? Have you noticed this pattern in yourself or someone around you? And if you're someone who finds value in understanding the deeper layers of human behavior, consider subscribing. Because that's exactly what we explore here, every single week. The hidden psychology behind the things people do. And more importantly, why.